Hi, Tony. Welcome back. What's our topic for today?
We're diving into an interesting topic that touches on critical issues in the AI wars. Specifically, I'm talking about DeepSeek. I was watching the news about Donald Trump's recent remarks. It feels like a wake-up call. Did you catch that report?
Yes. Trump said it's a wake-up call for the American companies to look into this.
Most think this wake-up call is about capital investment, but the Chinese AI model, DeepSeek, needs minimal resources. Donald Trump recognized this and remained frank, not cynical or confused, an admirable stance. Why does this matter? The key debate is DeepSeek versus ChatGPT, open versus closed systems. Some original AI models could switch between the two. An open system means full transparency. What I do, you can see. Nothing is hidden. And this involves copyright. We always think that if you say something, you have the copyright. But the wisdom stops there. Your wisdom doesn't generate another wisdom.
Very interesting.
That's the issue with copyright. It's a closed system. I make a discovery, but it's mine, and you must be careful not to misuse it. My code, my property, my wisdom. An open system, like DeepSeek, operates differently. Some call it theft, others see transparency. Whether justifiable or not, at least it's open. The creator allows the process to be observed. I'm no expert in computer science, but from common sense, the difference between open and closed systems is clear. Do you agree?
Yes. I think, like right now, a lot of people are debating. The question is, did DeepSeek actually train the model based on OpenAI data? That's the point people are trying to find out right now. If, they try to see if they actually build a model based on OpenAI data.
I've always believed that once human intelligence creates something, once it comes into existence, it belongs to the entire world. It becomes a shared property of the universe. Of course, that doesn't justify taking someone else's work, but there is a certain logic to it. You take existing ideas, repurpose them, and, in doing so, create something entirely new. You're adding another dimension to creation. That's what I find beautiful about DeepSeek. It's an open system. Speaking of which, I have a question for you. Do you know how long an English sentence can be?
No, how long?
Well, do you know what defines a sentence? If someone says, I am speaking a sentence, that implies there must be an endpoint, right? In Chinese, we use the word ju, which means a restraint. It marks a stopping point. You can't just keep talking indefinitely. But what if one day I told my English teacher I was going to give a speech, and I kept talking for 5 hours straight? If my teacher told me to stop, I could say, sorry, my sentence isn't finished yet.
That's interesting.
So, is that reasonable or not? Because in English, there's no strict rule on how long a sentence can be. Technically, there's no limit. You can't impose a maximum length on a sentence. But if you use the grammar, use the logic, then the system becomes closed system. Because if you use the logic, it becomes complex.
But you know what's funny? I could be wrong, maybe I am. But from what I remember, when OpenAI first developed its AI, back when Elon Musk was still involved, the system was supposed to be open source. But somewhere along the way, that changed.
For profit, they chose to monetize it rather than offer it for free. Now, to my point, English has complex and compound sentences. Complex ones rely on logic and constraints, while compound ones, using and, or, etc., are more flexible. Think of it like modular construction. Without a set design, there are no limits. But with a predefined structure, constraints emerge. That's the key difference between open and closed AI. Open AI is construction and expansive, while closed AI follows a predefined logic, placing constraints on its structure.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Closed AI offers a fixed beauty model. You can use it, but not extend it. In contrast, an open system builds on existing work, not by stealing, but by creating more for others to use. This is the essence of a generative system, one that expands and evolves, a concept central to Noam Chomsky's generative linguistics. Think of a house. In a generative system, it keeps expanding, like a growing family tree. A closed system, however, follows a fixed design with strict limits. This distinction is key. It reflects the deeper contrast between Chinese and Western civilizations. If Trump were wise, he'd see this as a bombshell. China is asserting itself globally. At its core, Chinese civilization follows the I Ching, Book of Changes, one of the earliest open systems. As Laozi said, Tao gives birth to one, one to two, two to three, and three to all things. This mirrors Chomsky's generative grammar. Both describe continuous creation. Now, this very principle is shaping DeepSeek and the future of AI.
Because they make it open source.
DeepSeek allows you to generate. You can use it build your own model rather than just use my model forever. And if next time you come, you have to come back to me. We have a quote in Chinese, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And this is the wisdom of DeepSeek. I don't know what's wrong with it, why some people are suddenly looking for flaws. That much is certain. I tried to download DeepSeek, but I couldn't. It's under attack. Some believe it's evil, accusing it of stealing. I can't say for sure, but what I do know is this. This is a pivotal moment, almost a declaration of Chinese civilization striving to rise and prevail.
Another big news today, Alibaba just launched WQien, an AI model nearing Google Gemini and OpenAI levels, while DeepSeek released a regionally limited multi-model that generates images and more. Some say its image quality beats DALL-E 3 and even outperforms GPT-1 in some areas. At this pace, China seems to be rolling out AI models almost daily. Now, how will the US respond?
Remember when we talked about turning customers into the product? Instead of just focusing on the product, why not turn your customers into the product? The customer becomes part of the system, a convertible asset. In the I Ching, there are 64 hexagrams, but they aren't fixed. They continuously generate new patterns, expanding infinitely. Some books try to define a specific number, but in reality, the hexagrams are limitless, evolving like stacked modules, 64 modules that keep generating more.
You know what I think? OpenAI actually tried to do something like this before. That's why they launched the old GPTs and the GPT store, ideas they introduced months, maybe even a year ago. But for some reason, they never really went all in on it. Not sure why. But now, with China's DeepSeek launching an open source model, things are shifting. I think this will force US companies like Gemini and even OpenAI to reconsider their approach. They might have no choice but to go open source or come up with something really different. Because if they don't, they simply won't be able to compete.
It's ironic. OpenAI isn't open, yet now it's being forced to be. Openness is key in AI and culture. Seeing the world as interconnected modules leads to peace, not conflict. Americans shouldn't worry. Trump's calm, collected response is preparing them. This is a wake-up call. But at DeepSeek's core is Chinese culture, an open system. A great culture must be open. If this continues, we'll see baby DeepSeek, grandson DeepSeek, who knows? Maybe we'll all become DeepSeek.
I think there'll be many new models coming in from China starting this point onwards. I remember what you said, like years ago. You say modules is the philosophy of I Ching.
Yeah, I remember I said this 1 year ago actually. I talk about housing too, right? Now, how do you rebuild the city in Los Angeles? We must use the open system rather than the closed system. An open system means a city can generate cities, and a city is open to change. This is very important. In fact, change is the most important word in our thinking.